Okay, so welcome to Be a Vibrant Club. This is the second of 4 workshops we're going to be doing in the district. And I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Bruce Bortner, who's going to lead us through the key principles of Be a Vibrant Club. And again, this is a great opportunity to ask questions and bring up, let's say, best practices that your club is doing. And then after the break, we're going to break into smaller groups and do some like a work session. So Bruce?
All right, thank you, Jeff. And if you'll go ahead and bring the Vibrant Club brochure up. We'll start with that. There we go. All right, that's the opening page. And just flip through the next 2 pages there real quickly for me, if you would. Okay, there's a story there about the Rotary Club of Rochester. If you have a moment to read that, since you all have copies of this, or should have, take a look at it. It's pretty interesting on how this particular club reinvented themselves. So then if you'll flip over to the back, there we go. Yeah, there's a story on how they did their reinvention, if you will, of their club. Very interesting. And on the back side, this is the path to vibrancy, which is simply 10 ideas, 10 general areas. These are called ideas or tips on how you can become a more vibrant club. And what I'm going to do is take you through each one of these, maybe with a little help here in a little bit. We'll see if Arturo Barrio shows up. He's our public image chair, because there is a section there on public image, and he's very good at that. But if not, I'll do that. So let's start. So we're going to go left to right, top to bottom, and just talk about some of these ideas. And then I want to hear hopefully from you that maybe some of your clubs are already doing ideas like this. And so we want to see how you're doing it. And we're also very interested to see what is our current situation with the COVID-19 virus. What's that done? To either, has it inhibited you from doing some of these things, or maybe not? I think most of the things we'll talk about today can still be done regardless. So let's take a look at the one at the top left, and we'll go left to right and then top to bottom. The first one is decide what you'd like your club to be like in 3 to 5 years. So what do we call this? What are we actually talking about here? 3 to 5 years out. Anybody?
Long-range plan.
Long-range planning.
Long-range planning, or strategic planning is the other term. Very good, thank you. That's really what we're talking about. And why is that important? Anybody? Why can't we just do what we did last year? Say again?
If you don't have a plan, you can't get there.
Yeah, you can't get there. You need a plan to get there. It's like, it's a roadmap. This is a roadmap to our final destination. It won't be final destination, but the destination we want to get to in the next 3 to 5 years. We really need to plan ahead to know what we need to do to get things done. So, and there are a number of things that Rotary provides for us to help us with our journey, our strategic planning journey. And the first thing is that they suggest to do is to do a health check of your club. I'm going to ask Jeff if he'll bring up the health check here, so you can take a look at it. It says plan an annual visioning session using the Rotary Club Health Check to identify your club's strengths and areas that need improvement. And so here's what the cover looks like. If you'll go down there, another page or so, here we go. So it talks about your Rotary Club experience. And there's a whole bunch of boxes. Where do we sit? Where are we now? And what do your club members think about your club? And it's quite in depth. In fact, so much in depth that both Jeff and I are in agreement that if you try to do this all at once, you probably, your members will get bored. Because there's 12 different areas that are covered, or excuse me, 8 different areas that are covered, 47 different questions to answer. And so my recommendation is that you kind of look at this thing and find out which of these are probably most most identifiable with your club, things that you want to know about your club. Pick maybe a half dozen, and do that. But here's an example on this particular page. It says, I look forward to attending the club meeting. Our club meeting programs are relevant. You just put a check in the box by all the things that apply to you. That's how it gets started. Next page there, Jeff. And then we get into the areas, and then you get what they call a prognosis, where it identifies potential problem areas and comes up with ideas to deal with those problem areas. It's very in-depth. Again, it's a lot of information, probably not something you would want to try to do the entire thing if you did want to do the entire health check. It certainly is not something you could do in one meeting. So you might, if it's your desire to do the entire health check, all 47 questions, plus the introduction, plus there's a section on notes as well, where you can take notes of, and so I would say you can spread it out over, say, a month, something like that. Or the alternative is go through, pick out the things that are most important to your club, keep it to I'd say less than 10, 6 is a good number, and then go over that with your, and you'll get a good reading of how your club is progressing and what they think, and what they think is working well and areas of improvement.
Bruce, are we going?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we going to be getting a copy of this health check?
Yeah, Jeff.
So
that's included.
The Be a Vibrant Club brochure, it has the hyperlinks in it. So it's really easy. Anything that's in bold on that 4th page is an actual hyperlink that goes to a Rotary document, so you can just download all of them.
Oh, okay. Okay. I printed mine out, so I don't see the hyperlinks, but I'll go back and look.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
thanks.
You'll get the hyperlinks if you do it online.
Okay.
I printed mine too. All the hyperlinks are in bold.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the question. That's great. We'll
Yeah.
make sure people can
And
find
Jeff,
it.
go down one more, and I want to show them some of these questions. So here's an area on service and social gatherings and stuff like that. So here's all the different things that we're asking them to either check or not check. And then go down one more, Jeff, and I think we'll see an area there. Okay, here's the problem areas listed on the left. All those all those boxed questions fall within some of these areas, and then there's prescription. One more, Jeff. And I think, okay, now we get into members. I'm looking for where you take notes. One more, Jeff. Down more. There's our problem areas and prescription. I may be thinking about something different. Anyway, whatever. So you get it. Oh, I know what it is. I'm thinking about the actual.
Yeah, I know.
About the planning. Okay, and so what happens is you'll identify problem areas based on the input you get back from the members of your club. You'll have prescriptions for those, and you can choose which ones you want to use. Okay? Very good. Okay, Jeff, if you'll take us now to the strategic planning guide. So once you know where your club is, it's always good to know, where are we now? The 3 questions I already have I always use when doing strategic planning is, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And what's causing the difference? What do we need to do to get there? Okay. So our strategic planning guide is going to help us do that. And I would also say that if you've never done any strategic planning, especially if we have any PEs in the audience, president-elects, you might think about attending Rotary Leadership Institute, because we have a 2-hour, almost hour and a half, hour 40 minutes session that Jeff does, really, really good, on how to do strategic planning, what it's all about, and the key ideas behind it. So Jeff, next slide. Let's see what we've got with the strategic planning guide. So it basically breaks this process down into 4 different phases. It explains what to do, when you're planning to plan, when you're actually doing your planning, conducting it, and then you have a progress check. And I think there might be a 5th phase. What's the next? Nope. Okay, so just 4. And different people do it different ways. So basically, this is all we need to see from our strategic planning guide as a start, but you start usually with a vision statement. In other words, where do we want to be? How do we see our club in 3 to 5 years from now? Well, as soon as you start thinking that far in advance, what does that mean to us as club presidents? Who do we, it should be telling us something about who should be involved with this and who should be if we're looking 3 to 5 years out. Anybody?
Members.
Everyone, but in particular, if we're looking beyond next year or the year, if you're the president-elect and you are having a strategic planning session, who else do you need there besides your board?
You need your future board members. Who do you want?
Absolutely. You need your future president, even if you can go out to a PEE, president-elect, get as far out as you can. And why is that?
They need to be involved in the process because at some point they'll be leading it.
Yep. If you want buy-in, if you want people to continue with your vision and your strategic plan for 3 to 5 years out, it's really a good idea to have the people that are going to be in leadership positions on board and part of the process. Absolutely necessary to do that.
Bruce, Michael Ann put in the chat so they can carry the ideas forward, which is exactly right.
Right.
It's not a 1-year plan and we start over.
Absolutely.
Right.
And yet, as an assistant governor, I saw that in my smaller clubs time after time after time. I couldn't, I was really trying to get them to look ahead. And of course, the first step is identifying who's your president-elect's going to be as soon as possible. And in some cases, here I am, it's in March or April, and they still haven't figured out who their president-elect's going to be. Hard to plan ahead if you don't have somebody who's going to carry out the plan.
And Bruce, isn't it also kind of the whole idea in Rotary about sustainability, that we want to sustain projects, and so therefore we need to know, project who those leaders might be to help sustain a project?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Okay, Jeff, let's go on to our next, we can go ahead and take that down. So any questions on strategic planning? I'd like just for a show of hands, how many of you have done a strategic planning for your year? Raise your hand. And you should, for those of you who are presidents this year, now you're starting to execute your plan.
Raise your hand.
Okay, this is good. For you president-elects, now's the time. Okay, think about when you can't start too early about identifying who you think is going to be the key players on your board, and the whole idea is to involve the entire club.
You dear.
And the reason for that is buy-in. The whole club's involved, things are going to happen. Okay. So any questions about strategic planning before we move on?
What do you see as the difference between strategic planning and goal setting?
Aha, glad you asked that. Is that Brenda?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, the goal setting is part of strategic planning, okay? And lo and behold, that's the next idea we're going to talk about. Thank you for the intro there, Brenda.
That's perfect.
Okay. Okay, Jeff, I don't think we have, that's okay, you can keep it up. I don't think we have a, okay, there we are. So the next idea is decide on your annual goals and enter them into Rotary Club Central. Okay, so Brenda was saying, what's the difference between goals and planning? Well, goals are part of planning. So, and as you do your planning, you're going to be setting goals, but what else do we need to be doing besides setting the goals? We just set goals and forget about it?
Tracking them.
We need to execute them.
Yeah, we got to execute them. And to execute them, we need
A timeline.
Yeah, we need a timeline. We need people to do that. We need people to be responsible for doing that. But when you look at the path to vibrancy here, for this particular idea, what they're really focusing on is what Rotary wants us to do, and it's not a bad idea, is to use Club Central, Rotary Club Central, as far as your planning is concerned, and completing you know, the things that you plan. And so what you do is you take your goals and you enter them into Rotary Club Central. So real quick, how many of you out there have, I'm talking about now, standing presidents? If you are president of your club, are you using Rotary Club Central for your goals? Raise your hand. Not yet, not yet. There's a couple. All right. So for those of you who are using, why do you use it? What's the advantage of using Rotary Club Central in your idea, in your?
Well, for one thing, anyone in the club can go and look at it and have an idea of where the board is trying to take us. And
Okay.
we can look and compare where we want to be and where we are now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deborah. Anybody else? There's another good reason why we do this, and it may not be very obvious to everybody, but it's certainly obvious to the people at RI.
It's a good process. They lay out what you need to be looking at to set your goals.
Yeah, that's right, Gordon. It not only does it give you the process, it allows you, as your, let's say you're a club president, you have certain goals that you're trying to do for your club. By putting them in there, by putting the goals in Club Central, now you have a place where you can go and you can see the progress. It's not something you can do in the back of a, you know, oh, I got an extra, you know, let me just jot down here. We did this today and we're going to do this tomorrow, and then you forget about it. Now it's someplace where everybody in your club can go see how you're doing, well, you know, how you're making progress in achieving those goals. Because, you know, the things that Club Central covers, the different areas include the big three. If I can remember, let's see.
Foundation membership.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Rotary's got membership. Okay, so you track your membership because almost everybody has a membership goal, right? So you can track your membership goals and your progress. The Rotary Foundation, how much money has the club donated and where's that money going? And also public image. What are we doing to improve the public image of Rotary in our community? Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about club public image here in a little bit.
Bruce?
The other thing that's in there is projects and planning. There's a whole section for planning your projects and then for monitoring the progress as we go through the year, because some projects take a long time. Because you may be raising money, you may have a fundraiser, you may have several fundraisers, and then what your project may be something that goes over a long period of time, like what our club, the Del Sol Club, is doing with the Navajo Nation, supplying food for them every week. So not only is this a great way to get organized for the club presidents, it really helps Rotary International. Why do you think Rotary International wants to see what we're doing?
It's because they kind of want to know, I think, what they can expect over the next years in terms of finances coming in.
Absolutely.
And I figured that out because I got a call from Tom Walker wanting to know what our giving goals were for this year so that he could make plans on DDF funds and all, what to expect.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Rotary International has evolved, you know, in terms of the way they think about what we do and the way that other people, the non-Rotarians, think about Rotary. For years and years and years, we were the best thing that nobody knew about. Okay? We did not go out of our way to publicize what we did. The idea was, let's do good in the world, but we're not going to tell anybody because they don't really need to know. Okay. But now we've been at what? 1.2 million Rotarians worldwide for 20 years. And one of the reasons is people don't know, you know, all those decades that went, you know, from 1906 was when we became a service organization. 1905, we were a social group. 1906, we became service oriented. And from 1906 until, you know, 1990s, you know, you got fined if you talked about your own business. You got, you know, and we just didn't go out and tell people what we were. Now we realize this public image is important and we want people to know. And for Rotary to get that information out, they need this information that the clubs are what are the clubs doing? This is how they know.
And
Bruce,
Yes.
there's another very important reason to put your goals into Rotary Club Central. And that's because this year, this is the way clubs will be recognized with presidential citations.
Very good, Deborah.
Good.
Thank
Oh,
you.
And the other thing about goals is, you mentioned public image. Rotary is starting to advertise how many volunteer hours Rotarians spend around the world working on projects. And when you put your service projects in Rotary Club Central, you can very easily track the number of hours that your members are working on those projects.
That's right. Rotary Club Central, when you enter a project that is coming up, something that you're planning on doing, Rotary Club Central will ask you about the project. What is it? How much money do you think you're going to raise? How many people are going to be involved? And then as you go through and you are actually carrying out that project, you'll update that information as you progress. When you get to the end of the year, then you'll be able to look back for your own benefit as well as for RI. Now you can look back and see what you did. How many hours did the club spend in these particular projects? How much money was raised? How much money was given out to the people that we were benefiting? All this goes to not only help the public image of your club, but also the public image of the clubs in our district and Rotary worldwide.
Well, and this also used to present to people like the Gates Foundation or Toastmasters or any of these organizations that we're partnering with, because it has a monetary value. When you drive a load of food from Albuquerque to the Navajo Reservation, or when the Rotary Club of Santa Fe hands out 20,000 gift cards to the community, there's a value in that distribution system, and they can present that value as part of their cause statement to the nonprofits that they're partnering with.
Right. And Bruce, too, I think that when you put your goals in writing, no matter where it is, there's a measure of commitment to them rather than just having them tucked away, or, it's not really a plan if it isn't written down. So I think there is a measure of commitment when we put our goals into Rotary Central. It gives us something to live by and a commitment that we've more or less made to our members and Rotary in general.
Absolutely. Thanks, Linda. And thanks, Dick, for your input as well. Yeah, there's a lot of benefit for doing this. And yet, the last time I checked, does anybody know, Sunny, have you gotten any statistics on how many clubs in our district use Club Central?
I believe, at least looking at the membership report, it's about 25% so far, but I'm pushing it every time I visit somebody.
Yeah. It's. I think once you get people involved and they try it, they like it.
I think you're right. And I might mention also, some clubs think they've done it and it doesn't show up. You've got to remember to save whatever you enter or it goes away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for you assistant governors and lieutenant governor, Deb, this is very useful for you guys as well, because when I was an assistant governor and I wanted to know how my clubs were doing, I have access. I can see everything that's going on in the clubs that I was the assistant governor for. This is important for the assistant governors as well, because in some cases you may end up having to help out. And this was certainly the case for one of my clubs. I talked to him, met the new, I was there for the induction of and actually inducted the new club president, and afterwards sat down with that person to find out, what they knew about Club Central and to get them enrolled. And that was the first thing I did with each one of my new club presidents, is get them and make sure that they were enrolled. But what I found out was, in one case, one of my club presidents was also the superintendent for all the schools in this county, and a very busy person. And so guess who got to put in all the information? Moi. So, it's very good for the assistant governors to have a real good grasp on how Club Central works, because I actually put in all the goals and kept them up to date for one of my clubs, simply because my club president was too busy. So lots of value here.
Bruce, can I comment?
Yes, please.
Just so people are not intimidated by Rotary Club Central. The Angel Fire Club sat down and did their goals yesterday. And it took about 1 hour. 3 of us, collaborated, worked on it together. It took us only 1 hour to enter 13 goals. And there are 25 possible goals you can enter. You need to enter at least 13 to qualify for a presidential citation. It just so happened we were able to easily find 13 goals that we felt we could accomplish. And then it took another 15 minutes to enter all the service projects. So it is not a major task. And then once that data is entered, it is so much easier to keep track of your progress against those goals and to report your volunteer hours.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
That's great.
Any
Bruce?
other comments for those of you who have used Club
Bruce?
Central in the past? I found it invaluable. As an AG, it was invaluable to me.
Bruce,
Yes.
one caveat, just as a reminder, is that Rotary Club Central will automatically update things that it knows about, like your membership and foundation giving, but it will not automatically update things like volunteer hours, public image, things like that. So it's important that someone like the club secretary goes in regularly and does those updates. Otherwise, you're not going to have that progress towards goals that you're looking for.
Some of that.
Absolutely.
I didn't do
Okay.
the progress yet.
So are there any questions before we move on to the next area
I have a question.
regarding Rotary Club Central?
And
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Have you ever done a presentation on Club Central by sharing your screen and walking someone through the process?
Yes.
You have,
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I haven't personally done one, but I have observed that done. Our district secretary has done that on a number of occasions.
Yes.
Okay. I think it'd be good for some of these new presidents that just to set up just a Zoom to say how to put goals in Club Central and just actually walk them through it.
Well, what we did when we set our goals is I was appointed scribe, and so I signed on to the website, would post the goal, and then the club would discuss it, and we'd fill in whatever they decided on and move to the next one. So they were actually filling in the goals as we went along, or seeing us fill in the goals. And it was a really good way to do it. They got to see everything.
Right.
It also
Thank you, Dick.
expands the level of ownership. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
One of the
And-
best parts of doing the training online is we can do those demos of Rotary Club Central and Club Runner when we're in a hotel and Wi-Fi is iffy. Those demos are really tough. So that's actually one of the advantages in doing these online trainings.
Right. And don't forget that to be eligible to log information into Club Central, you must be enrolled in My Rotary. Okay. And for you new presidents and president-elects, it's always a good idea to check your club every now and then to see and remind people that this is something that is also a tool for them to use. You can use your giving. You can do your giving through My Rotary, which makes it very simple. You can get information on the club, but you've got to be enrolled in My Rotary, and that's become easier, I think, over the years than it used to be, just to even get enrolled. So that's the first step. Enroll in My Rotary, then you can set up Rotary Club Central. Any more?
I'd like to go back a minute to Brenda's question about the
Yes.
difference between strategic planning and setting goals. The setting goals in Rotary Club Central is really an annual process. What are my goals for this current Rotary year? But strategic planning is more long-range planning and setting goals for where do we want to be in 3 to 5 years. And that's a significant difference.
Well, but doesn't mean you can't have goal setting in your strategic plan.
Well,
They'll
that's
just
true.
be farther out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so you're usually going to have 5. So if I've got a 3-year plan, I'll give you an example. Jeff Weinrack was president of Rotary of our Del Sol Club, 2013 and 14.
Yes.
I followed Jeff. Doreen Kelsey followed me as district governor. All 3 of us, you know, Jeff did he did a health check, I think, or maybe you used a member satisfaction survey. That's what I was thinking about earlier, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But at any rate, he got a census on where we were, and we did I guess it was about a 3-year long-range plan that Doreen and I were both in on. Okay, at least I know I was, and then as soon as I realized that she was going to be, you know, follow me, I made sure that she was on board. So all 3 of us knew what the 3-year plan was going to be and were devoted to making that happen. So yes, there are goals, there is goal setting, but then the real work comes when you're actually executing. This is what Deborah was saying. You know, now what's going to happen this year? We have a 3-year plan, but what's going to happen this year? Where do we want to be? What goals have to be accomplished to get where we want to be 3 to 5 years from now? So yes, there's 2 different ways to look at goals, both strategically and the goals that you are working with now. Okay, any other questions before we move on? Okay, very good. Hearing none. Okay, Jeff, let's get to the next one. Let's go back to our sheet here. Okay, on the left side, we're now looking at hold club meetings. Now we're talking about the club meeting itself. We keep members engaged and informed. And this is what I was thinking about. I've got my Rotary Club health check mixed up with the Rotary member satisfaction survey. Jeff is going to bring up the member satisfaction member satisfaction survey for us. And this tells us what your members like and don't like about your club, which is somewhat related to the health check. Okay, enhancing the club experience. And if you'll scroll down, talks about, you know, what the outcome is, how to get started, you know, introducing the survey. This is, I think, the one that's really long. I'm pretty sure that the health check is long too, but this is the one I think that's like 47 questions or something like that. So different areas, we're going to introduce the survey, distribute it somehow, either during a meeting, or you could email it to them. You're going to analyze the data once you get the input back, present the results to the club, and then decide what you're going to do about it. And then you take action. Okay, next slide there, Jeff. Next page. Yeah, this looks more familiar now. So this is the one that is, this is ultra long as well. This is the one that has 8 different areas of interest. It starts out with just an overall kind of look, you know, are you satisfied or some, you know, with the way that, with your membership says, you know, how satisfied are you with your membership in your Rotary Club? Okay, that's the start. And then you go into these different areas. The first one talks about culture, members, and meetings. And and your boxes are, yes, I agree with the statement. One statement says, club meetings are a good use of my time. Another one says, my club's members care about one another, you know. And then you put in there whether you agree, somewhat agree, neither, you know, you're indifferent, somewhat disagree, or so on. Or you disagree altogether. So, okay, go to the next page, Jeff. Then, back up one. There we go. Okay, so here's the last part of that. And then there's an area where they can make comments and suggestions. And, you know, as far as how they feel about this, that they might want to bring up. Now, there's, as I said, 8 different areas of interest. There are 47 different questions. This is the one that's so long. And both Jeff and I are in agreement here as well that you probably don't want to do all of this at once. Just an awful lot to swallow at one time. our recommendation is that you go through this and you pick out maybe a half dozen or so really key areas that you want to get information back on and give it to them. Or what you can do is you can get more than that and split it up into sections. If you're going to do this as part of, let's say, a club assembly, your meetings are an hour long, you might have a half an hour for your assembly, maybe 40 minutes. You're only going to probably make it, because if people go through, you got 47 questions, 8 areas, plus comments and suggestions, my guess is you probably won't get through 1 or 2 of these in 40 minutes, especially if there's discussion. So you might want to spread it out. But again, for your long range planning, maybe you want to take the most serious of these things that you think and your board thinks, and maybe the club thinks, are the ones that you really need attention, okay? And we'll work on those. But keep the numbers down, because then you're much more likely to get, people involved. If you want them to give information over 47 different questions, by the time they get to the end of that, they'll just be checking off the box in the middle. Okay.
Bruce,
Okay, so that's the member satisfaction survey. And
Louis, did you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. This information seems really important and relevant for the clubs. Do you know if any clubs are using like SurveyMonkey or some other type of survey software to track this information so it can be collected and kind of like compiled for assessment at a club assembly?
Yes.
Yes, Jeff?
Yes. And that's the advantage of SurveyMonkey. I use Google Docs, but it's great to kind of capture the information, be able to put it into nice graphical forms and use it as club assembly material. It's also great at board meetings. So yes, it's really common to use the online survey tools. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Bruce, I just want to underscore how very important this is, especially right now, that being able to connect with our members and find out what their experience is like and what they want and need is the heart and soul of what we want to be doing.
Right. Thank you, Sunny, and thank you, Louis. Okay, so that's the membership satisfaction survey. A great way to start. Before you do your long range planning, where you do the health check, you might want to consider doing the satisfaction survey. And Jeff, I think that's what you did. You used the satisfaction survey, didn't you? Or did you use?
I did my own. I did like an online survey. I used some of the questions that were in here to think about it, but I designed my own, and I used, I think, SurveyMonkey back then. I didn't have Google Docs, and it worked great. It was very easy to kind of compile all the data and disaggregate it by male and female and young and old. And seriously, I mean, that's where you get a lot of your information, is by breaking out your data by groups, right? Which is why you ask, are you male or female, and what's your age group? How long have you been in Rotary? So we had very different responses in terms of what people wanted out of Rotary if they were only members for a couple of years versus if they were members for 15 or 20 years. So tools like SurveyMonkey are really great in pulling apart the data and making sense of it.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing that came to mind as you were talking there is, you have a baseline. Well, wouldn't it be nice to know how you're progressing? If you have a 3 to 5 year plan, don't just do this once. And that's one area that I fell down on. I should have taken Jeff's questions and asked them again, maybe midway through my year, to see how we were doing. Okay. And then pass that on to Doreen, and she could have done it in her year as well. And let's see if we're making progress.
And Jeff, isn't SurveyMonkey also anonymous?
Say that again?
Isn't SurveyMonkey also anonymous?
Yes, that's another advantage. Yep. Because we want people to be open and honest. Yeah. So if you do SurveyMonkey or Google Docs, platforms like that, it's basically anonymous, and people are more likely to share how they really feel. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So anyway, that's one of the tools that's available to us, to help, figure out where we are, where we want to go, and keeping our members engaged and informed. Once you do this and you report back the results of the survey, people want to know that, that your audience, your club members, You know, if you go 6 months, they say, you know, we took that survey 6 months ago. How are we doing?
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce.
Yes.
John put a really excellent point in chat. You know, now that a lot of us are doing meetings on Zoom, you can do a survey immediately through Zoom. Now, if you're going to do polling, you have to do it ahead of time. Like, here are the questions I want to ask. But you can get immediate feedback on things like, hey, how was the speaker that we just had? Or, you know, so Zoom is nice if you're meeting on Zoom to get immediate feedback. It's a really nice feature. So great point, John.
Thank you, John. Okay. So when we talk about, you know, your club meetings, keeping them engaged, keeping them informed, you know, we pretty much have a kind of a standard format. People, but clubs, you know, I've never been to a club. I've never really seen two clubs that have exactly the same format, which is cool. I like that. I mean, you know, clubs do different things. You know, the standard, you know, that our club does is we have introductions. We introduce guests and visiting Rotarians, and then we ask if we have any, you know, information that we want to pass out, you know, about what's happening in the club. And, you know, and there'll be some, and we maybe want to recognize, we have a spot in there if we want to recognize Paul Harris Fellows and things like that. Okay. And then eventually we get to our speaker. And then we have, and our club, our sergeant at arms, you know, does all the fines and everything at the end. So every club is different. But, you know, where I'm heading with this is you might want to vary the format a little bit, which is the other suggestion here. Vary your format to make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe a mix of the traditional and then, and since we've gone online, well, I guess we've been online now most of the 7 months that the COVID thing's been going on. But there was a period of time, about 3 weeks there, where we were actually able to meet live in a restaurant, because the restaurant rules were, you know, allowed enough people that we could actually have some people there. That didn't last very long, but we had half the people online and half the club was there physically. So we kind of combined both because some people just didn't feel comfortable, moi included, you know. So I stayed online, but we actually had people attending a live meeting. So,
Bruce?
Yes.
When it comes to how you have your club order, one of the things that I thought when I visited your club that was so unique and fun was how the musicians in your club would get up and play some songs and everybody would sing along. And I know you played a banjo. Yeah.
Banjo, yeah, the 5-string. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
That's right. And that's one of the things, that's one of the things we miss online, you know, doing virtual meetings. What we found out real quick, the very first virtual meeting, I'll share a story with you real quick. Very first one, I was asked to do that, you know, I said, hey, let's do a song. It was a miserable failure. And the reason is there's delays. You know, I had 2 other people in my group that were playing. I had a guitar player and a fiddle player. And we were all playing at different times. And because we couldn't, by the time we hear what the other person's doing, it's already happened. So we quickly figured out that music doesn't work well online. Okay.
People saying the Pledge of Allegiance is difficult.
Oh, yeah, and the Pledge of Allegiance, yeah, we have the same problem. However, we do it anyway, and we try to get as close as we can. But it's certainly, you know, if I'm leading it, I stop, and then 5 seconds later, there's somebody else that's still ending it. So, yeah, it's hard to do. But
as well as the four-way
is vary your meeting format every now and then. Make it a little bit more interesting, and you know, maybe that will also help keep your members engaged and informed. So any other comments on meeting and making them more interesting and use of the satisfaction survey before we move on? Okay.
Oh, Bruce,
Yes.
I have a question. Our club faces a challenge of really needing to recruit new members. And I'm wondering if anyone has come up with a survey, if you will, questions to ask prospective new members. What would you like to see in our club that would make it interesting to you and make it easy for you to participate.
Ah, okay. Actually, we're going to talk about that. Let me see which one of these it talks about with new members, preparing member for future roles. I think we have that covered, Deborah. Making sure all members are involved in activities genuinely interesting. Okay, get new members involved by learning their interests. We're going to be talking about that. So can we hold that question until then?
Sure, sure.
Okay, very good. Okay. Has Arturo joined us yet? I can only see about 3 people besides myself.
No.
No? Okay, no problem. Arturo is our public image chair, and I sort of quickly, last time we did this a couple of weeks ago, I asked him if he would like to do this part on communicating openly in your club, which is the next one we're going to talk about. In particular, I wanted him to talk about the brand center and public image, which he did a great job. But I'll fill in for him today. So when we're talking about communicating openly, I think there's a strong tie between open communications and keeping your members engaged and informed. Basically, what we want to make sure is that we share information at club meetings. One of the things that I observed as an assistant governor is that occasionally club leadership would forget to tell people, or either remind them about things that are going to happen or tell them the results of things that happen. And so somebody in the club would say, hey, a couple of weeks ago we said we were going to do this. What happened with that? Well, best to plan on, in your format for what you're going to do is, if you've got things going on, give them an update. Let them know what's going on. Share information, either live or online, like we're doing now, or use your club website. How many of you have a website? I can't see you raising your hand, but I'm assuming almost everybody has a website. Okay, very good. How many have a newsletter? Our club has a newsletter. Again, I can't see all the hands. Jeff, can you see?
Bruce, Sandra raised her hand.
Ah, okay.
Sandra, go ahead.
No, I was just raising my hand to say, yes, we have a newsletter.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Newsletter is an excellent way to get information out. I used to be assistant governor for both the Downtown Club in Albuquerque and Del Norte, to really fine clubs. And they both have excellent newsletters, weekly newsletters. And as an assistant governor, I always wanted to say, could you please put me on your distribution list so that I can see your newsletters, so I can follow what's going on? Because I only saw them, maybe once a quarter. So the newsletters kept me up to date on what was happening in my clubs. Social media. How many of you use social media? I know our club does. And here's another interesting question. And I can only see a few hands, but I'll bet you a lot of people use social media. And where was I going with that? My train of thought just left the station without me. Where was I going with that?
I'm going to write that down.
In our community, social media is better than putting posters up.
Yeah.
Huh.
What our club did, and we saw this coming about a dozen years ago or so. 10, we saw the need for social media, but there wasn't anybody in the club that really knew how to use it properly. So what did we do? Our membership team went out and recruited somebody. Specifically somebody that was up on exactly what we needed for social media. And we've been lucky to have people to do that ever since.
We're very fortunate we have Gordon Cox.
Oh, yeah. Very good, Gordon.
Anytime.
So, and then the other thing is to check regularly to see how members are feeling. And again, we do that through our membership satisfaction survey. And you can do it more informally if you wish to, but just make sure that you record, what's going on.
You were just looking at about.
And let people know how we're improving. So the other part of communicating openly has to do with using templates and resources in the Rotary Brand Center. This falls under public image, which is what Arturo is very good at. He's our new public image chair. And so who can tell me what public image is? What's your definition of public image?
Where the hell is he?
Answer what is public image? He's,
Anyone?
I don't know.
Communicates your
How you're
involvement.
your community.
Say that again?
So it's how you're perceived in your community.
How you're perceived. That's right. You know, it's not publicity. It's not, you know, it's public images. What do people think about us? And for years, people didn't think about us because they didn't know us. Okay. And one of the things that the Brand Center does is, and I talk about the Brand Center because this was a big change. This is something that was added by Rotary in the last couple of years, was Rotary changed its brand, didn't they? Okay.
Yep.
So I'm looking at John Drewsdom right now, and he has what behind him?
A rotary wheel.
The rotary wheel. Is that the proper way to show the rotary wheel?
No.
No.
Brenda says no.
John says no.
Sunny's giving it a thumbs down. No, things have changed. What should be there with the reel? To the
Angel
right of the wheel.
Claire, look at Deborah's screen.
Yeah, it should
Move
say
your head.
rotary.
Duck our heads. There.
Yeah. So here's what happened. This is what I think happened.
Mine's there.
Rotary did a study. Rotary said, you know, why do so many people recognize the wheel but don't know Rotary?
Because you can't read the word rotary.
Yeah, you can't read it. It's too small. Right? And so they recognized what it was, but then they couldn't connect it with us. So they said now, okay, the proper branding is the wheel with the word Rotary out to the right. Okay? If you want to put your club name in, as Deborah and Gordon have behind them, it goes underneath. Okay, and this is what Arturo knows top to bottom, left to right. He has all this stuff, you know, that he controls, and information that he can pass out as a result of being our public image chair for the whole district. So, you know, public image now is we want people to recognize us.
Okay, Bruce, we have a correction. John's banner has the correct logo somewhere else, but we can't see it.
Oh, it's too, okay.
I think it's
Oh, we
covered.
just can't see it, John? Okay.
But we should not make him wrong. That's the key.
Okay.
It looks wrong.
It sounds good to me.
From a
May I-
public image standpoint, I'm not seeing it.
May
That's
I say one quick thing, Bruce? This year, more than ever, I think, Rotary is reminding us that public image is internal as well as external. That it actually affects, it has something to do with how we see ourselves and how we're experiencing Rotary. So we want to be paying attention to both of those things.
Right. And I wanted to give you an example, something I saw in the newspaper not too long ago regarding public image and Rotary. How many of you get the Journal, the Albuquerque Journal, or any newspaper that has a comics section in it? How many of you have the comics called Funky Winkerbean? Yeah, it's in the Journal, and it comes the page before the comics page. It's on the same page as the bridge game thing. Well, Funky Winkerbean is I've been following that cartoon, you know, that particular strip for years and years and years. Back in the days when they were just kids in high school, at Westview High School. Okay, Westview High School, Westview Scapegoats. Okay. And among the characters besides Funky is a character called Les. Les is the guy with the bifocals and can't see very far, and he's kind of the nerd of the group, gets kicked around a lot in high school. And then all of a sudden one day, the strip changed to 20 years later. They were all grown up, had jobs, married, kids, had kids. And Les married a friend, a girl he met in high school named Lisa. Lisa unfortunately passed away from cancer in this strip about, a number of years ago. And Les started a fundraiser for cancer research called the Lisa Fund. It was a fun run. This year, guess who sponsored that strip? Rotary. The local Rotary Club. They actually have I saw this one strip. There was the Rotary logo. Unfortunately, they didn't pick up on the change in the brand center, and it had the name of the club right next to it instead of Rotary. But here's a comic strip that goes out to millions of people, and they talked about that particular strip. Talked about what Rotary was, the city of Westview, and the Westview Rotary Club, or whatever it was called, how they were sponsoring this fun run to raise money for cancer, and it would even the characters in the strip, in the comic strip, were talking about how nice it was that the local Rotary Club was doing that.
That's cool.
Do you think that had an impact on the readers?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at that and I said, wow, I wonder if Rotary knows this is going on. Probably whoever writes the strip is a Rotarian or knows somebody who's a Rotarian. But what a great way, to publicize the public image of Rotary. If only they had gotten the brand right. Okay, let's move on. Any questions about communications in your club?
Before we move on, could we just hear from a few more people about what they're doing with public image in their clubs? I'm just curious.
Okay, briefly, because we want to, okay. Public image, what are you doing in your clubs? Anyone want to share?
I'll share, Gordon here. We use Facebook a lot to tell people in the community what service projects we're doing. For instance, we're having a blood drive next week, and we post several times in Facebook to remind people that the blood drive is coming to town. And the morning of the blood drive, we remind them again to get out. So Facebook is very, very useful in that respect.
Thank you.
We have no newspapers in Angel Fire.
Right.
And
good.
our Angel Fire Better Than the Post Office Facebook page has 6,000 members.
That's great.
Wow.
And anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Michael Ann, you're the PI chair for Santa Fe, right?
I am. I'm trying to stay on mute because my daughter's in a piano lesson, so forgive me if you hear her playing. Yeah, but much like the other club of Angel Fire, we're using Facebook and Instagram to get the message out about what we're doing at our meetings to try and promote new members, but we're also getting the message out about the fun activities that we're doing as a group, both here and internationally, to just, try to promote everything that's being done. So it's been really successful. My job is to get our members to like and share as well, which has been a little bit of a challenge, but slowly and surely they're doing it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Anyone else want to share?
While we're on a quick break, we're going to take a real break at 11:30.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Linda.
I can just add from Los Alamos, we have the good fortune of having 2 online newspapers that run 24/7. One of them is edited and owned by a Rotarian. So we get 24/7 coverage of all of our programs listed for a very reasonable discount. And then when we do special projects, this particular Rotarian will host the ad for free. So we do have online presence, and she has a very broad readership. It goes overseas because of the interest in the National Laboratory, and it goes across the country. So whether people are able to attend or support our local Rotary, Rotary is in the news 24/7 among the readers of this particular online newspaper called the Los Alamos Daily Post. So we're very fortunate in that sense.
Thank you, Linda. Actually, that does kind of reveal to all of us that it's a strategic thing to get the publisher of your paper or your leader of your radio station or someone to be a member of your club, to be a Rotarian somewhere.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Our club uses YouTube videos, Twitter,
Yep.
It's amazing all the things you can do and how many people you can reach with this stuff.
Instagram, LinkedIn.
Instagram. Yep.
So many more that I don't even know about. Louis could tell us probably.
Okay, let's move on. Our next section, Jeff, if you'll bring up our brochure, is to prepare members for future roles to smooth leadership transitions. In other words, what are we doing? You know, what they're saying here is that to ensure continuity, that we're down to number 5, third down on the left. To ensure continuity, we should be hopefully making appointments in our club for key positions for more than 1 year. I know our club does that. Usually we ask our people to stay in for 3 years. I was membership chair for 6 years. They want to have concurrent incoming and past chairs on the committees. Once you're, you know, if you've chaired a committee, the idea is stay on that committee so you can share what you learned in your year. Then maybe even go so far as to conduct some on-the-job training for incoming club officers to prepare them for leadership transitions. And here's where I want to put my plug in for Rotary Leadership Institute. How many of you have attended the Rotary Leadership Institute? Raise your hand.
We need a gallery view for this.
Yeah, I need a gallery view there real quick, Jeff. Okay.
Who's John Reed just graduated.
That's good. And graduated, that helps too. Okay. The Rotary Leadership Institute does a lot of things, you know, and it's for a lot of different people. It's for to orient new people to what's going on in Rotary, but it was originally designed, I think, you know, it was originally designed as a sort of like a red badge program to introduce new members, but then it rapidly grew into a leadership development course. Let's develop our leaders so that when it's their turn to take over club as club president, they'll have all this background information that they can use, not just about their club, but Rotary in general and Rotary International, how Rotary International works. So that's my plug for Rotary Leadership Institute. If you haven't attended, all you need to do is contact Renee Canton. She's our coordinator.
Or Kathy Fuller, yep.
And Renee or Kathy
Fuller, yeah.
Kathy Fuller.
Yeah.
They are co-chairs, if you will, of our Rotary Leadership Institute for this year.
Me neither.
A lot of good information in RLI. Okay. And it saves you, the club, from having to spend a lot of time and effort training people as well. So let's move on to the next area, Jeff. So this has to do with the club's bylaws. Interesting. Okay. Adapt your club bylaws to reflect the way club works. Why do you suppose this is in here? Anyone? Why do we care about the bylaws? You know, when bylaws are good, we'll just set them and forget about them, right?
Well, I think they have to reflect the nature of the club. And we certainly have run into some situations in our club where we realized that there were some shortcomings in our bylaws that needed to be covered by some kind of, you know, policy structure. So I think that circumstances and also just the particular nature of your club requires some adaptation over time, certainly a review.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to share?
Bruce, there were some recent changes to the Rotary International bylaws. And so we were asked to look at our club bylaws and make sure they were consistent with the Rotary International bylaws.
Was one of those changes, let's see, did it have anything to do with attendance?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
It's been changing attendance in the bylaws every time the Council on Legislation meets since 2013. So yes, there were changes.
Okay.
Hold on, Don, what are you showing? Because your background is making it hard to see it.
Don, you're muted.
Yes, it's my graduation certificate.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I am so happy to be able to show this. It's a great achievement. Thank you. Sorry.
It is a great achievement. Thank you, Don.
The whole point of this particular tip or idea regarding bylaws is here's what happens in clubs, and this happened in my club too. When I was the year that I was president, and things that I've observed is we make changes in how we run our club. We're allowed to do that under the bylaws, but the thing is, we forget to go back and update the bylaws to include the changes that we've made, and over time, 3 presidents down the road, somebody says, well, you know, we've been doing this for so long, but it's not in the bylaws. Why are we doing it?
Right.
And we forget, oh, yeah, well, I remember that, but the point of the whole point of this particular one is involve your members when you review the bylaws and make sure you update your bylaws to any changes that you've made throughout the year. I'll give you an example in our club.
I just want to acknowledge that it's very disempowering to notice that you're not operating according to the ground rules created for yourself.
Right.
It's actually makes you wonder what else is out of integrity.
It can be very dangerous too.
Yes.
Several years ago, I was working with a club and we were reviewing their bylaws, and they had set their dues at $3.50 per member.
In the bylaws?
In the bylaws. So they had been overcharging their membership, and the membership wanted a refund. Several $100s back to $3.50.
Wow.
Yeah. So the point of this is, and we don't have to look at the recommended Rotary Club bylaws. I think most of us are familiar with that, but we can't. There's very little we can do to change the Constitution, right? The only thing we can change is our club name and our territory that we can draw members from. That's it. But the bylaws, we have control over that. And when you make significant changes, whether it be money or having to do with special categories of membership, you can do that. Our club did that for the people that have been around a long time and had done great service for the club. We wanted to recognize that. So, but you got to remember to update your bylaws. Okay, that's the whole point of this.
Bruce?
Yes.
So just speaking for myself, when I saw the Be a Vibrant Club brochure and I went through those 10 kind of best practices, when I looked at the bylaws, I thought, okay, so having bylaws means you're a vibrant club. And I thought that should be like a minimum.
Yeah.
I think what Rotary is saying is we're in a period of innovation and flexibility. So be innovative, be flexible, but make sure that the bylaws reflect that. It's a lot harder to keep up with them if you keep making change, right? So I think the notion is have the bylaws reflect the period that we're in, which is a period of change, not just having them.
Nice point, Jeff. Thank you.
It's also very good if you publish your bylaws.
Brenda, we can't hear you.
Say it again, Brenda.
It's also very good if you publish your bylaws on your website.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Jeff, if you'll bring up the brochure, we'll move on to, now we're going to develop strong relationships within your club. This is particularly focused at our new members. Something that I feel very strongly about is I think one of the reasons, this is number 7, where the arrow was pointing. Thank you, Jeff. So we want to develop strong relationships within the club. Find suggestions in introducing new members to Rotary, which we're going to look at in just a second. And then it talks about sit with different people. Well, you've got a new member coming in, and one of the things that we like to do is get that member to meet everybody in the club. Okay? So one of the things that that we do with our new members at Del Sol is we put them on the friendship committee. I forget what it's called now, but at any rate, their job for the first 6 meetings is to be a greeter. And so they have a red badge. They come early. they greet everybody that comes in so that they can get to know the people. And then we suggest that they sit at different tables each week so they can get to know people. Okay. Now, Jeff, if you can bring up introducing new members to Rotary, we'll show them what the pamphlet looks like.
And while he's doing that, Bruce, I just want to mention we aren't sitting anywhere near each other these days, so we want to find other ways to get new members to greet everyone and get known.
Right. Yeah, that's very good. You know, and certainly attendance at our virtual meetings is very important for the new members because we can't have them physically standing there as part of the Red Badge program anymore,
right?
Because we're not meeting as a club. Okay.
So Bruce,
we have to
I'm really interested to hear what other clubs are doing for this. I know you said that you guys have a friendship committee. Is that right? What sorts of things are you organizing now that we're virtual to keep these new members that are?
Michael, and you just went mute.
Whoop. Was that for me?
It was, yeah. Did you hear my question?
Yeah. Our friendship committee is for new members, and there's a number of things that they're required to do. The one thing they cannot do now is greet people because of the COVID. Okay. So, and I will tell you that I think we have kind of lost track of introducing them every week since we can't do that. So that's something I'll bring up with our club president, is we need to find a way to remind people who our new members are, because we are still inducting new members left and right during this period of the COVID-19. So now we need to find a way to get them in front of our club virtually so people can remember who they are.
Could I raise a question here? This is really for everyone. I've started a list of possible ways you could do red to blue badge during COVID, and I'm going to be publishing that. But it occurs to me that we want to be careful not to be putting a whole bunch of hoops in front of people who join Rotary right now. You know, in order to be a true Rotarian, you've got to do these 12 things. I would like to have us be more mindful and strategic about how we set things up to involve new members and not have anyone feel burdened by it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that, what Sunny was saying. I mean, we have one new member who's installed, and pretty much like I'm centering a lot of their engagement at our meetings. So like the meeting is the center stone of like what their experience is. And one thing that we're doing in Taos is after like the 4-way test and one of our members does the trivia, we're doing breakout rooms. So every single week we have a breakout room question where a club member will ask like a networking or icebreaker style question. And I just randomly put them in breakout rooms of 4 or 5 people, and they get to talk and share with each other about their question and get to know each other a little bit better. And I've found that that's been really valuable, and people like that. And if they can't make it the following week, it's okay, because they know when they come back, they're ready to go to learn a little bit more about their fellow member. And even our guests too.
Yeah, and how long do those meetings take place, or how long are they when you break them out?
The breakout sessions typically 5 to 8 minutes. Just depends on where we are in the meeting. But I like to group about 5 to 6 people in each breakout room.
Wow, good idea. I see. From Jeff on that.
I could say this. I'm the current membership chair for the Hobbs Rotary Club. Am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute. Okay, for the Hobbs Rotary Club. And I haven't started executing this yet, but I just thought it'd be a good idea to send out emails to our active members, being that we're in this pandemic situation and some people aren't comfortable meeting versus some are, just to send emails to all the active members, letting them know. So if we have a new member induction, which we did just have one on Thursday, I would send out an email to all the active members letting them know, welcome Jane Doe to our club. She's, give a little bio about them, just like we're doing in the induction, give them a little bio, and just so that they know, oh, they're new to the club. And when we do get to a point where everybody is comfortable meeting in person, then they're not like, oh, who is this? Or that or whatever, because Hobbs is quite a pretty community oriented place where people are pretty familiar with each other. So that makes it a little easier to keep track of the new members.
Well, thank you, Caitlin. That's a great idea.
Bruce?
Anybody else have anything to share?
I have a suggestion. When I became a new member, it was hard to get to know everybody, particularly by name, because you can't really see a badge name across the room. So a good way to get around this is, at least in Club Runner, people could post their picture so that a new member could start associating names with faces.
That's a really good idea. I'd like to see that happen more. The ones that do have it, it makes a big difference. We can all become more familiar.
All right.
Welcome, Tom Simon. Glad to see you.
Hey, it's good to be here. Sorry I'm late.
It's
Hi.
okay.
Hi, Tom.
Not a problem.
Hey, on that issue of photographs on Club Runner, if the secretary of your club, when they enter all the data, actually it starts with the membership person, that when they accept the application, make sure you get a digital photograph with that, so that the secretary just puts it up and then it's done.
Great.
It's part of the institutional process.
That's a good idea.
Folks, it is close to 11:30 and we were going to take a break at 11:30. So just one announcement before we take our break. It'll be a 20-minute break, so you have plenty of time to maybe get something to eat. And so we'll reconvene at 10 till. And when we do, we will finish the last 3 of the 10 kind of key principles of being a vibrant club. And then we're going to shift into kind of what's working well and what can be improved for your clubs. We probably will not do breakout rooms given the size. It may change, but if it stays the way it is, we'll just have it be this group. So let's go ahead and take a break and we will reconvene at 10 till.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Leave and leave is up there if you want to leave.
No, just stop the video. It shows your picture. Mute.
You want me to reach out to? I think that one is Saturday, but let's look at it. Oh, you're talking Jane Curtly. Oh. Right, let's do this, that. Let's try that. Well, you know what?
Try it again.
We got another one, we'll try it again. Wow. That's pretty cool. Ah.
Jeff, did the system go down while we were on break?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, because I had to go through a signing process.
Really?
Yeah.
No? I've been logged in and sitting here. It didn't shut down and restart.
Okay. Maybe it was just my computer.
Could have been. You know, with Zoom and Wi-Fi and everything, especially last week, I was in a number of meetings where Zoom went through like a cycle, like Wi-Fi kind of went iffy and Zoom kind of had to do a restart. So that's one of the reasons why for my job, I'm logged in twice, one on my phone and one on a computer, because if the computer goes down and has to do a recycle, I'm still on my phone and we can still carry on a conversation.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes.
I just talked to Kathy Fuller and I told her that Don showed his certificate. She was cool. And I also told her that we had questions about when the next RLI would be. She's going to get with you this weekend and start looking at what we can put together.
Awesome.
Yeah. And she told me I made her morning. So Bruce, thank you for doing the pitch for RLI.
Yep.
Yeah, you bet.
And Kathy wrote a great article in the news bulletin, which just came out, the district newsletter. And she quoted our friend from Nebraska because they were so delighted that they were able to participate with us. So that's worked out really well.
It was very cool. Yes.
So Sunny and Beth, why don't you promote listening to the replay if anybody wants to get access to RLI sooner than waiting until the spring?
Okay, it's not at all the same. So I'd like to, well, yeah, I can certainly mention it. But Jeff, maybe you could tell people how to access that. If
Yeah, I mean, we usually will send out the RLI link. But yeah, as Sunny said, I mean, it's and for someone like Bob Roche, who's working with the incoming presidents, he is conveying to them that he would like for them to watch it if they can't participate, because it's kind of like a pseudo pre-pets for them.
I suppose it is. Yeah. And
can they still get credit for attending RLI if they listen to the replay?
No. It would still be for their learning, but it wouldn't count as having attended. Part of it is there's no way you can track attendance, but secondly, you have to be engaged with RLI, right? So if you watch it, it's great for Bob and great for your learning to be an incoming president, but it wouldn't count for RLI.
And Jeff, when you send out the link, you don't send it to the whole district, right? You just send it to the people who attended.
Correct.
So if people wanted to find it, we need another mechanism for that.
Bob shared all the links with me. But I'm not going to watch it.
And pretty much as now that we're doing all RLI virtually, we're recording every session and posting it on our district YouTube page. So they are there.
Of course, yeah.
Yep. That's worked out well too.
Yes.
All right, it is 10 till. We'll wait just a minute while people are coming back.
In.
And the first order of business is to get a picture, so that's one of the reasons I want to wait.
Wait,
just to-
everybody who has a camera, we need it on.
Here, I'll do
John, did we intimidate you into changing your background? I'm sitting in front of me.
I don't want to
thinking,
get in trouble anymore from the teacher.
What's that?
Yeah.
Don't want to get in trouble anymore with the teacher.
Indeed.
Okay, we'll wait just another minute.
Okay.
If you are back, please go ahead and turn on your video so we can get a nice picture of everyone.
Can you do that?
Yeah. More. Oh,
No, Carla's at the
Here we
beach.
come.
I can't.
I don't care.
We're missing just a couple people.
One more minute.
Yes.
No, then your picture comes up.
So, you know, these are so funny when we put them on Facebook and it's all these little faces. So maybe if we all get our faces as close to the camera as we can. And John, thank you.
Everyone took a picture. We have to be live.
Okay, let's go ahead and,
We don't have Tom. Is Tom coming, Deborah? You're muted. Okay,
yeah.
we'll do what we can.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Okay, 1, 2, 3, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Awesome, thank you.
We only saw the top of your head. I think we need to do another one.
Who? Me?
No, Jeff's.
1, 2,
Oh, wait.
3.
Wait,
Oh, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Double thumbs up. Okay. All right. So again, we're going to go through the last 3 kind of key principles and then shift to a work session. Bruce?
Alrighty. We're now, if you'll bring up the brochure one more time. We're now on number 8. Make sure all members are involved in activities that genuinely interest them. How can we do that? Let me ask that question. Okay, that's all we need, Jeff, for that for now. Just let me go ahead back to the, so I can see everybody. So how do we do that? And why is that important?
Michael Ann just put in something in chat. Survey. Ask.
Ask. Let's think about our new members in particular. How do we get them involved? The question is, get new members involved early by learning their interests and giving them a role in the club. How do we know what their interests are?
You talk to them, you get to know who they are. You make them feel
There we go.
welcome.
And when should that start?
From the beginning, whenever you're going to, when they're even a prospect.
Right.
That's what I
When
say.
they're being recruited.
Right on, absolutely. The sooner the better. At our club, when I was membership chair, we started we have a thing where someone wants to introduce a new member or a potential member, and what we'll do is take them out to lunch, or maybe just a cup of coffee, something like that, and sit down with them and find out what their interests are. And the 2 big questions are expectations. What are your expectations of Rotary? We ask our new members, our potential members. And then once we know that, then we say, okay, now here are our expectations of you. Here's what we expect from our members, as far as attendance and so forth and participation. And we have found that this pays big dividends. We lose a few people. The very first potential member that we tried this on, when she found out about how important it was to make meetings and sort of that, she says, well, I have a young child that's just about ready to go to kindergarten and da-da-da-da-da. And pretty soon it was pretty obvious that she wasn't going to have the time for a morning meeting because we're a breakfast club. So best to find that out early. And we would do that even before they're members.
And do we express our expectations fully to the new members?
Yeah.
you know, that they take a leadership role, that, you know, maybe not the first 2 or 3 years they're in the club, but at some point we expect them to step up and consider being club president, consider serving on the board, consider being involved in projects. I don't think we express our expectations of the new members sufficiently enough.
Yeah, thank you, Dick. And let me hitchhike on that. Within the last couple of months, our RLI, we had the opportunity to do some refresher training for our facilitators. And we invited representatives from, or facilitators from our district just above us, District 5450, does that sound right? At any rate, we did a combined facilitator training with Greg Pott. Okay, I don't know if how many of you know Greg. He's a former vice president of Rotary International and has long had ties to District 5520, even though his district is now up in Colorado. So Greg came in and conducted some training for us, and we had this other group, you know, in Southern Colorado. And one of the members there, when we talked about leadership, she took offense to that. She says, I didn't join Rotary to be a leader. I don't want to be president. That's all she ever thought about was leadership means they want me to be president. I don't want to be president. And because of that, she took offense to this idea about leadership. And she said, all I just want to do is help people. And I said, well, that's okay. Okay. By participating in our activities and our projects and helping people, you are leading. We have servant leadership as well as leadership. Okay. Serving is leading as well. And so something we had to drive home with this particular person. Very nice woman from up in Colorado. At any rate,
her point was that we should change the name of the course so that it would appeal to people who didn't want to be leaders.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I personally like the RLI, you know, because
I do too, and I think
tell them.
Important.
Yeah, we tell them what leadership is. It doesn't mean you're going to be the president.
I just want to say too, thank you, Bruce. I want to say too that Holger Connect, our RI president, has made a specific request of us this year, going back to Bruce's original point, that we really pay attention to whether our club is a fit for the people who are looking at joining, that we listen extra deeply to what they're after in Rotary and make sure we can provide it or put them in touch with another club that can. Because I think that's probably, I think his point is that that's one of the antidotes to losing people, you know, like a revolving door, sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bruce?
Much better to find a good fit,
yeah,
and perhaps lose a potential member, but to another club. That's fine.
You know,
Bruce?
yeah,
Dan.
we could be using the term involvement instead of leadership.
All
You know,
right.
in terms of club activity.
All right.
Bruce Involvement Institute.
Bruce, you mentioned the
Well,
strategic.
typically off the tongue.
Bruce, you mentioned the strategic planning that we did when I was president. The one thing I knew from day one is that when I put the group together to participate in the planning, I was going to include new members.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
They don't have bias. They think outside the box because they weren't in a box. And it kind of gets them acclimated to kind of how the club operates. And that worked fantastic.
Absolutely. Get them involved as soon as you can. And you know, this falls really under the membership spiral, if you will, you know, that we teach in Rotary Leadership Institute, is getting people involved and especially early helps us retain those people. We lose the numbers that we constantly hear from RI are we lose half of our new members within the first 3 years. And the reason is they never really understood what Rotary was all about. They never got involved. And so after a short time of coming and eating rubber chicken at lunch or whatever, and they said, well, this really isn't what I had in mind. So it's really important, one, that we find out what their interests are their expectations, then they know what their expectations that we have of them. That's very important, as Dan was, or you mentioned that.
I'd just like to add something.
Oh, yeah.
As members of Rotary, whether you serve on the board or you hold a chair position, I just feel like, and me joining the local Rotary Club here, I just feel like as a Rotary Club member, you're already a leader just being in the club.
Yeah.
We represent our community. We're a service organization, and just doing that type of work and the things and projects that we do, I feel like we're already leaders. And so just taking that on to be a new member, you kind of have to have the mindset that I am a leader. Because people are automatically looking at you when you wear that badge, when you wear that shirt, when you represent that symbol of what Rotary is.
Right.
Well said, well said.
And may I just quickly say, Jeff's point about new members bringing fresh ideas. When we think about being vibrant, having new people around us to keep us thinking and alive and trying new things, having Rotaractors be a part of our lives makes such a difference in our vibrancy, doesn't it? It keeps us from being in a rut.
And interactors.
And interactors, thank you, Dan, yes, and interactors.
Yeah, yeah. Interactors are playing a bigger and bigger part now. They're now members of Rotary now. So that's really important.
Right.
But, you know, going back to Dick's, original thought about, even though not everybody will be president of your club, you still have to have presidents, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's a good idea to find out early on, who might be a potential president 4 or 5 years down the road. And that's something that we can do when we first introduce our new members to Rotary. So let's move on. Number 9, coach new and continuing members in leading. And this is tied very closely to this preparing members for future roles to smooth leadership transitions. There, as the idea was, let's make sure that we don't lose the knowledge and the background that people have had in leadership positions. Let's keep them as part of the committee or something like that after they've done their tour as chair. But it did indicate about conducting on-the-job training. Well, that on-the-job training, then now we're talking about coaching and continuing members and leading. So I don't know how many of you have had a training committee, but I led the training committee in our club for about 4 or 5 years when I was membership chair. And those two were closely related, I felt. So, but I had a training background, so I stepped right into the training piece. Jeff did the same thing when he was on board or came to our club. He had a training background as well, but not all clubs do that. How many clubs that you guys represent have a training committee? And someone who's assigned as a training, okay, our club does. Okay, not that many. Okay, that's something you should think about. Deb and Gordon, you have someone in your club you have a training committee in the.
Our club is too small. We're having trouble filling the essential positions, let alone a training committee.
I just want to mention the Learning Center has some great stuff there that we can all use to keep ourselves trained. And our alliance with Toastmasters also offers opportunities for leadership development. And they now have a curriculum in the Learning Center. Don't forget.
Bruce, our membership chair, Skip King, he leads a SPUR training, Special Understanding for Rotary. He uses that manual to introduce new members to Rotary. And I've helped him with that in the past. So our only problem is getting everyone together, the new members, to try to consolidate the training. But we do have a training program for new members.
Okay.
Is that document still available, Linda? Because Lewis was just asking about.
Well, I'll certainly try to find out from Skip and let you know.
Let Lewis know too.
Okay,
Femi,
great.
Dan Schulte should have that.
Okay. Right, but we'll need a resource that's universally available if we can.
Right, I'll see what I can find out, and I could let you know or Jeff and
And then
certainly
we'll
Louis.
make it
Okay.
for everybody.
There is a
Thank you.
Spur handbook, but it's out
Yes.
there. I know-
It's a
I
little out
do
of date.
not believe it's been updated.
Okay.
I think.
I haven't seen an updated version of it.
Okay,
it's true.
that's what we've been using. I don't know if that's as credible as some other sources then that might be
RLI
newer.
is probably our very best bet
Okay.
in that regard.
Yeah.
Rotary leadership.
I know for our club, which is smaller, too, we don't really have a training committee, but I tend to find myself after attending, whether it was RLI or just different things, I find myself making little PowerPoints and just updating all the membership so they can at least know what's going on at the district level. So it's gotten to be a joke where it's like, oh, you're presenting again, or, leading the meeting again. So that's what we try to do in Ruidoso. And then when I visited some of my clubs, I walk in and I'm just here to observe. And they're like, no, you're our speaker. So I try to pull up stuff.
Thanks, Carla. That brings back memories. I visited the Rotary Club of, where was I? I was in Australia, Sydney, North Sydney. And I walked in, introduced myself and said, hey, welcome. You're going to be our guest speaker today. That's right.
Actually, this ties in with both this topic and the previous one. How many clubs have mentors for new members? I see Santa Fe for sure.
Yeah.
Our club used to do that.
Yeah, what I do when I'm mentoring someone is that I make arrangements to meet them for 4 consecutive weeks for lunch and go over from top to bottom the structure of Rotary, the opportunities, and eventually get down to where they feel like they want to focus and fit in. And then Dick has a training as well. About an hour training, Dick?
About an hour and a half.
Okay. That complements that.
See, we do the training, but at one time we did have mentors that would stay them for a whole year.
Yeah.
And they went through our initial new member training, which was constructed around the Spur program. But I put together some training materials like the history of Rotary International, our club's history, and some basic things about attendance and so forth that I took from Rotary International and built a training program from
Yeah.
that.
And I think the thing I like about what Santa Fe Club does is that your mentor is somebody other than the person that brought you in. So I then had 2 resources to go back to, which is really nice for me.
That is
Oh, that's very good. Thank you.
And one of the things that we do is teach them, we go step by step with them to get them onto Club Runner on their phone and then get them onto Rotary.org so that from the start they know how to find information.
Do you also, Deborah, do you also help them get logged in and registered with My Rotary?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did I miss that? Okay.
And I will say again, I think this is becoming a theme, that it isn't just about transferring technology to our new members. It's the experience we communicate, that we care about them and we're investing in them, and we have a commitment to their thriving and finding their passion in Rotary. So that's probably even more important than knowing the history and the structure, but it comes across in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And the other thing I do is ask them to join me at another club. And usually I try to take them down to Albuquerque or somewhere where they have pretty vibrant clubs. And so that's kind of fun for them to see a different way that there isn't just.
Our club does that as well. That's one of the requirements to get your blue badge. So you visit another club.
Part of that package that we give a new member includes a booklet that we put together called A Brief History of Rotary, which talks about not only Rotary in general, but specifically the Rotary Club of Santa Fe. And it's, just something that they can browse through. We don't have to spend a lot of time with it in orientation or when we're doing our mentoring sessions, but you know, it's a fun little booklet to have to know what the club has done.
Yeah, very good. Okay, let's move on real quick before we leave this topic. Rotary does have some material on leadership in action, and Jeff, if we can take a look at that real quickly. Leadership in Action Guide on Starting a Program to Develop Members.
I don't have that one available, Bruce.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, but basically it talks about exactly the same things we've just been talking about. You know, expectations, mentorship, you know, getting them acquainted with what Rotary is all about, but basically getting them involved in something that they're interested in. And again, that goes back to expectations, you know, finding out what their expectations are and see if we can meet those expectations as soon as possible. Very good. All right, let's go to the last one.
Yeah, Bruce,
yes.
Bruce, before you go on, I have a question for the group about something that I think our club doesn't do very well, which is we have a lot of committees and so forth that people can become a part of. We require as a part of membership that they do join committees. But then I see some new members looking around and saying, you know, how do I do that? Who's in charge? Who's, you know, how do I join this committee or that committee? So are there any ideas out there for doing a better job than we do of introducing people to the opportunities within the
I'll
club?
open that to the club. Oh, well, okay, Jeff.
Lewis.
So I'm the trainer for new members. And so in the latter part of that training, we'll say, you know, here are the key committees of the club and let's talk about what may be a good fit. And I'll do the matchmaking and say, you know, if the foundation is of interest to you, I'll put you in touch with our foundation chair and see if that's a good fit. So I want to leave them with a sense of where their passion is that the club can support and connect them to whoever is responsible for that in the club.
Okay. Lewis, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. This is a question that's come up, especially since we've been having our Zoom meetings virtually for about 6 months now. One of the things that I'm aiming to plan with our club is having like a committee, like speed networking event where each committee chair like leads a little session. So if anyone's interested in joining like the literacy committee or international committee, they can spend about 5 minutes of their time learning from each of those leaders, both to learn a little bit more about the committee, but also their vision for what's next, like what are we going to be doing at these times. So that hasn't happened yet, but that's something that I'm planning for in the next month or so. So stay tuned. I'll share a report on how that goes.
Very good. Yeah. And our club does something similar to that as well. As Jeff was pointing out, when I started the training program for our club back in 2005, I put into the briefing on the, you know, just describing what our club is, you know, and our club history. I also included in there, here is a chart of all of the different committees that we have, who's in charge of these committees and who has vacancies or needs people. And briefly talked about each one of the different committees, whether it be membership or the foundation, whatever, and he said, and this, and you know, who the, and I gave this information to them written also about who the president or the chair people were, how to get in touch with them, and I would ask right then. Of course, all of our new members go in the fellowship committee right at the beginning, and they become greeters, well, which we can't do right now. But in addition to that, I want them to be able to. I said, within the next couple of weeks, you know, let me know which one of these you're interested in, and I'll get you set up. You know, now I don't know whether we have continued to do that or not, but that was the whole idea. Was let's find out what your interests are, and we'll get you hooked up with a committee. Let's get them involved as soon as we can. Anything else you want to share before we go to the last one of these? Okay. All right. Last one is create practical committees. Oh, okay. Create practical committees for your club. Okay, and here they break it down to two: small clubs and large clubs. Obviously, small clubs are at a disadvantage. So what they have to do is they have to combine committees. You know, you'll have somebody that's chair of more than one committee, more than likely. And I'm talking about small clubs. Larger clubs, on the other hand, tend to have a lot more committees. They create additional committees to get all the members involved. As I mentioned, I was assistant governor for the downtown club in Albuquerque. They have almost, at that time, they were about 180 members. And also the Del Norte Club, and they were just under 100 at that time. And they both had numerous committees I'd never even heard of before. And, you know, if they have somebody looking for a job, they had a committee for them. There was absolutely, and everybody's in the committees for something. You know, I'd like to get your thoughts on that, especially for, do you have anybody here from a smaller club that may not have as many people, and so it's a little bit more difficult to fill your committee slots? I know we talked about, someone indicated that they're having problems now. Was that you, John, that mentioned that?
It was Gordon here.
Oh, it was Gordon.
Right. We haven't looked at the prospect of combining committees yet. I think it's partly because we haven't been meeting as often as we would like because of the COVID. We're ramping things up now, and we're sort of getting organized. And I think that's a good idea. Just because a person is responsible for one area, they could take on another area as well.
Yeah, how many members in your club, Gordon?
11 right now,
Oh, wow.
but all are active. 2 of them are out of town, so to speak, waiting to join another Rotary Club where they've moved to. So that boils it down to 9.
Ooh. Okay. Now, that's not always been the case up at Angel Fire. I think I visited your club years ago when I was membership chair.
Yeah, we have had 5 to 6 people leave in the last 6 months through death and moving out of town. And we really do not have a lot of the key business owners as members of our club. And I think it's because the business owners are so small too. They run the business. And I think we need to start meeting in the evening. We just changed just this past week to a more flexible meeting format where every other week we'll have our traditional lunchtime speaker meeting. And on the off weeks, we will have a working session, like a meeting devoted to what are we going to do about membership, or a service project, or a social activity. And we will hold those off week meetings in the evening. And Gordon and I have both committed to sit down with some of the key people in our community who we really think should be members of our club and just talk to them about what would we need to do as a Rotary Club to attract you? How could you participate? And just illustrate that we're much more flexible than we used to be.
Right. So, but the bottom line here is for, you know, for clubs of your size. And I can remember back in the day when I was membership chair, and I visited the Espanola Club several times. And that was back, I think, Deborah, when you and Tom were there. So you remember how far back that
Deborah.
was?
I was never there.
Oh, so that's Deborah then. That's right. And they had the same problems. They at one point in time, you know, 20, 30 years ago, they had 30 or 40 members. The mayor was a member of the club. You know, the superintendent of schools was a member of the club, and so on and so forth. Now, you know, all that changed over a period of time, and they were really struggling. So I can understand for small clubs how difficult it is, but basically you don't really have a choice. You have to have some committees. There are some committees that you must have, and so it may mean that you have to double up. On the larger, you know, for the medium and larger clubs, not so much a problem, provided that, you know, people are actively involved. And so that's the key, is to get them involved early and keep them involved.
Bruce?
Yes.
I just recently heard a wonderful quote, which I think is extremely profound. And that is, if you're struggling with membership, do more service projects.
Ah, yeah.
You get more vibrant instantly. You become more visible in the community. The people you have already get engaged, and the others want to come and play.
Right.
I think that's
Some of the smaller clubs operate as committees of the whole.
It's true. Thank you, Dan.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to have to do that with our youth program, where we're going to have to, just every member of the club is going to have to be involved in some of the youth activities. because it's too much for one person to take on. And Sunny, to your comment about service projects, we have two prospective new members right now, and they're both interested because we're doing a community garden, and it's a project that they're both interested in helping with, and they both have expertise, and that is what has attracted them to Rotary. So that's very true.
Example, thank you.
And just keep in mind, there's no requirement that everyone that serves on the committee must be a member of the club. So sometimes there are other people that you work with, let's say Rotaractors, Interactors, local charities, that it would be great for them to be part of a committee and get them involved too, especially if you're a smaller club and you don't have a lot of people to serve on committees.
We are doing that with our garden project.
With
You're
your,
actually,
Yeah, go ahead, Brenda.
Brenda, you just want you with your which project?
with our garden project, we're also involving the Garden Club of Angel Fire and the food pantry here in Angel Fire,
Yep.
which is altogether another problem because you have the same people in all three.
Well,
Yes. Thank you.
Within District 5520, back when we had 71 or 72 clubs, we had several clubs with less than 10 members.
Yeah.
And I can remember as membership chair going up to some of these, and I never remember, this one little club only had five members, and one of them was just passed away. And basically what they told me was, we have one committee. It's like you said, it's a committee of the whole, and everything falls in, and we do everything as a group. And rather than lay it on just one person, the whole group looks after membership, looks after foundation, looks after projects, everything. And so there's just one group.
Bruce, in the small communities, one of the hard things to realize is that the same people that are in Rotary or in the Chamber of Commerce or in the church activities, or they do everything in the community.
Right.
They all wear multiple hats. And it's a different animal from dealing with a metro area.
Absolutely. And the club that sticks out in my mind that I visited that was so small was Fort Sumner. They're gone now. They just ran out of people finally.
When Clee died, that did it.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about about the path to vibrancy and the brochure?
Any suggestions on how to involve Interact during the time of COVID?
Can you say that again, Brenda?
Say again, Brenda.
Suggestions on how to get an active Interact club going during the time of COVID.
Oh, Interact.
Michael and
PDO.
One is involve your superintendent of schools. The other is it is key to have sponsors at the schools that are enthusiastic. Right now, ours are setting up recruitment and membership by Zoom, inviting the kids from last year and inviting them to have their friends join. And they're going to be doing some activities where they don't have to actually, basically it's food for a pantry, where they'll have boxes for food collection. And so they can be protected and yet still feel that they're doing something with the community.
Carla, you've had that experience. Can you share?
Yeah, I know one of the things that we did with the Rotary Club when I was in Tulsa is we had lunch buddies, and the Rotary Club, the members came in and we would assign them students that were troubled students, whether they just got in trouble a lot, didn't have a father figure, or maybe in the foster care system. We set them up with buddies and they mentored them. And one of my favorite stories to tell was when my father passed away. Y'all want to see my face? When my father passed away, I ran into a guy that was one of my friend's brothers, and he was a pretty good attorney in the Tulsa area. And he goes, hey, do you remember when you were that middle school principal and you assigned me to this one kid? And I said, yeah. He goes, I just want to let you know I followed him all the way through high school. He just graduated from OU and got accepted to law school. And it just broke my heart because this Rotarian had such a positive impact on this kid, on the student. And his life was changed forever. And so I think sometimes instead of trying to go in and organize, just say, you know, we'd like to bring in a group of 5 to 10 people and just assign us to mentor a kid, a student, and let the administration or the superintendent see your involvement of taking an interest in their students, and then it can kind of grow from there. Because we ended up getting a lot of sponsors. American Airlines ended up coming in. Their place where they fixed the planes was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so they became a mentor program with us. McElroy Manufacturing became one of our partners, and it was amazing just to see how through Rotary these big companies became partners in education, not only with the district but with the schools. So it really good. And then I know in Fort Worth, when I joined Rotary, same thing. My Rotary Club my school was right there by the stockyards, and the Rotarians were just awesome. And they were in the school all the time. And it was a small club of about 25, but the involvement in the schools really made an impact.
Thank you, Carla. I'd like to just jump in with a quick thing too. We're creating a list. We have a partial list already published in, not this newsletter, but a previous one, a list of COVID-safe service projects. And we ask that you send more ideas to either Don Powell or me. We'll keep that list updated. We'll get it on the district website. A lot of those projects are suitable for Interact kids. And we can have them engaged in the community, engaged with Rotary without having to be in meetings, which aren't safe right now. Thanks for the question.
One of the most impressive Interact clubs that I visited was in Estancia. And that club was amazing. I think they're probably more active than the regular Rotary Club. That Interact club has the support of the district superintendent, like Dan had said. And also their student body votes on what they would like to see the Interact project do. So people really are engaged. They may not be attending the regular club meetings, but it's really for the school, you know, and so they're doing some really cool things.
I think from our experience, and I'm going to let Jeff tell you about our satellite group and how we recruited how we got our Interact club started in the East Mountain High School. But the key is finding somebody on the staff who really thinks this is a good idea, you know, and gets behind it. And Jeff, you want to talk briefly?
Well, I'd like to, but we only have a half hour left. I'm checking the time here, and I'd like to shift this last half hour to a brainstorming on what your clubs are doing well, and maybe more importantly, especially now, given the principles of what we just went through, what are some things that should be considered to improve? Part of it is during COVID time, like right now, what can we do to be a more vibrant club? But then looking ahead, this is not going to last forever. What are some things we can think about more strategically to be a more vibrant club? I had sent out a worksheet that we're not going to fill it out today, but I'd like you to take it back to your clubs, and we'll ask the assistant governors to help you all do this. But the idea is, given the circumstances, given kind of how things are going now, membership and foundation and public image and service projects, what's going well, and maybe more importantly for the next 20, 25 minutes, what are some things maybe that you've heard about, or things that maybe this spawned an idea? What are some things that you think your club should consider as an improvement in the short term and maybe also in the long term? So again, this is going to be an open discussion. We're not going to use breakout rooms, but we'd like to hear some ideas and maybe have some some peer-to-peer learning.
Jeff, I'd like to say from Los Alamos, I like the idea of having all members assigned to a committee, and we do try to do that, but where we fail is we do not have a chairperson to monitor those committees to see how well they are functioning. And even though there might be a committee chair, it's not always evident that that committee chair is reaching out to the different people on the committee. It's almost as if that person is waiting for some higher direction. So I think that's where we fail. And I hate to say it, but it's almost like holding hands or spoon feeding. We really need someone who has the time to invest in making sure each of these committee chairs and their committee members are more or less taken care of, as Sunny has said. And we have about 52 members, but as you know, just from statistically, that means there are about 10 of us who are truly invested in making sure that these things get done. And I think there's just some, I don't know if it's Rotary fatigue, COVID fatigue, aging fatigue, but sometimes we just don't have the investment in establishing more direct hands-on involvement. And also there's always the danger of micromanaging, which no one appreciates. So that's kind of something that we struggle with. And I just bring that up because it may be evident in other clubs as well.
Jeff, may I jump in?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you, Linda. That's really a great point. I know that it's always a challenge, whether COVID or not, getting people engaged and having them do what you think they're going to do. I think there are a couple pieces that really make a difference. One of them is having a strong sense of vision coming from everybody who's willing to provide it, not just the president, but why are we doing this? What is the point? What do we hope to gain from it? So it's not just a job. And the other thing is making sure people are really set up to win. That maybe the job is too big for right now, or the committee isn't big enough, or they don't have the resources they need. So it's kind of everybody's responsibility to make sure people win. And if somebody isn't winning, it's not an opportunity to make them wrong. It's an opportunity to see what's missing that could be provided. Maybe you want to cut back on some parts of the job for now, but make sure people are empowered with what they're doing. I want to change the subject, if I may, Jeff, just for a minute, because there have been some questions in the chat about Toastmasters. Do you want to field those, or would you like me to?
Please do. You've been our leader on Toastmasters from day one, so.
I'm very excited about this alliance with Toastmasters, which was just really launched this year earlier. And there are a couple of reasons. One is that it offers new resources for Rotarians as well as new prospective members. And also, I think that we can grow and we can become even more effective ourselves as we go forward. So this alliance, it's not really widely known yet, so one job is to tell people it exists. Another great thing to do is check the Learning Center's curriculum, which has been created by Toastmasters expressly for Rotarians. There are 8 courses available there. They are really good. I can vouch for them. They start with, how do you develop a speech and how do you deliver a speech? So Toastmasters can be a resource for Rotarians developing not only public speaking skills, but also leadership skills. Toastmasters make great speakers at our clubs. You can invite them to come in and speak. They practice speaking all the time. They're very effective, and they can add a lot to a meeting. And we can visit their clubs. We can learn more about how they're learning to be effective public speakers. We can join Toastmasters clubs. I just did, and I'm actually finding it really interesting and valuable. My Toastmasters club is online. It meets twice a month on a Monday evening. And it's friendly people offering wonderful feedback and lots of support. So that's another possibility. Toastmasters should be invited to participate with us in our service projects.
Yes.
And anyway, I'll stop there for a moment. Jeff, do you want to add anything?
Just, we have a fantastic district committee led by Ophelia Miletsko in El Paso, if you're interested. And we have a Facebook page for our district's alliance with Toastmasters. So if you're on Facebook, please go out and like it and share it, because it's got some really good information on it. Going back quickly to Linda's question, and I'll just plant this seed when it comes to committees in general. And this goes back to two of the other principles of being a vibrant club, which is strategic planning and goals. There's a big difference between a busy committee and a productive committee. I would say if you're chairing a committee, or if you're going to be in club leadership and you're going to be focusing on committees, have their work be tied closely to club goals and strategies, and have that be their charge. As opposed to just doing things, they're doing things that were planned out. And that becomes a part of that monitoring. If we're monitoring our progress towards goals, and if we're not getting as far as we should, then that's an opportunity for the committees to reassess what they're doing and maybe change their tactics. So the committees are a great opportunity for flexibility and adjustment towards club goals and what's linked or what's mentioned in the strategic plan. So, what other notions are you having in terms of how to be a more vibrant club? Not just now given the circumstances we're dealing with, but also thinking a little bit more long term.
Yes, Patrick.
Yes, I think in Las Vegas, because we have a very small club of about 20 members, and most of them have been in Rotary for quite a while, but they are aging. And what we have done is, and I think it's been very productive, we have 2 school districts in town. We have, of course, the city of Las Vegas. We have NMHU, and we have the United World College. And we've tried to go out and get members from each one of those institutions. And that helps keep us in the loop with what's going on in the city. But it also helps us to co-sponsor events and projects with these entities. And I think that has been very productive for us to go out and try to get the larger institutions involved in our group. And it's also been good because it gets us a lot of publicity.
Yeah. And I think something like that, where a club is a certain demographic and they need to reach out and maybe diversify, that's very strategic. That's not something that's going to happen overnight. That's building relationships and getting comfortable with each other. So again, that's a nice way of thinking longer term and saying, you know, maybe year one, we're planting the seeds, building relationships, and maybe we see the fruits of our labor in years 2 and 3 and going forward.
I'm reminded that Rotary International's vision statement for all of us is together we see a world where people unite and take action. It doesn't say where Rotarians unite and take action. We can involve everyone. Thank you.
What else? And by the way, and I'm glad, Patrick, you mentioned that you were with a small club. There was nothing in those 10 best practices that talked about club size.
That's right. We can be vibrant at any size.
Every club. Yep.
You know what? I also learned something when I joined. I've only been a member for 4 years, but I did learn something from one of our past presidents, Sharon Caballero. She was the former president of Highlands, and she was a big doer, and she was I think accustomed to managing large things and large projects. And when I joined, and I've noticed it with other people, that she would talk to us, get to know us, and then right away we'd be on a committee. And right away she assigned me to the golf tournament committee. And I said, but I don't golf. And she goes, well, I'm going to have you work with somebody, and you're going to, you may not golf, but you're going to learn how to do this. And so I've been co-chair of that for 3 years, and I still don't golf, but it's what she did to involve the new members. Just right away, you're in a committee and you're doing a project for the chapter.
That's great, Patrick.
I
Deborah.
thought I saw another hand go up, or
Deborah was about to say.
Deborah, go ahead.
One of the things that was required when I joined Rotary at the Espanola Club was that new members were required to go to the district conference. And up until then, I thought Rotary was just what my little club did, which had its limits. And when I went to that district conference, my eyes were opened to what an amazing, huge group we are in this district, and how I could be more involved. And I visit quite a few clubs throughout the year, and Tom and I have gone twice to your golf tournament, Patrick. And so anyway, that has made me personally more vibrant with Rotary. I'm not sure always how to translate that to my club. I think, well, what I've been doing recently is looking to see who the new members are that are coming in. And I was sitting at their table and learning more about them, and then kind of taking them under my wing if it looked like we shared the same interest. And in my case, it's the international part. And so anyway, so that's what I'm doing. I'm not sure that there might be a more effective way, but it helps me keep myself encouraged.
That's great. And that raises another point.
I'd like to add to that. Debbie and I have been to several international conferences. We were looking forward to going to Hawaii this year. And we call that our Rotary fix. And, I mean, it really, really gets you revved up. You come back from both the district conference and the international conference, just all pumped up. And so it's really too bad that we didn't have that this year. But we did start watching the district one.
No, we started watching the international conference,
Oh,
which is
right.
on YouTube. And it's very good. You know, you were talking about not being able to do music on Zoom. Well, they did a quartet, a very famous quartet out of Australia. And these 4 guys were all in different locations singing these beautiful songs and playing the piano. But of course, they must have used much more sophisticated technology than we have access to.
Thank you.
So going back to Deborah's point, you know, we talked a lot about new members earlier. And one thing that is really important to reinforce with new members is not everything that they may get involved with is through the club. So the Rotarian action groups and the fellowships, there's all these additional opportunities that the club may support, but it's not done through the club. So it's really good for new members to see all of what Rotary has to offer, whether the club sponsors it or organizes it, or whether it's just something we can do as individual Rotarians. And a lot of the new members don't know about all those action groups, and that's a great opportunity for them to get involved. Linda?
Thank you. I was going to say what seems to have helped our club this year with COVID and the fact that we're not meeting in person is that our president, who of course last year was president-elect, she started working on what we call a presidential project, which she hosted in mid-September. And by having this large service project in which the whole community was invited to participate, and it's written up in the district newsletter this month. It was a meal packing program, but by having this large service project open to the community, having it in September, it's working out that she can build on this as a foundation for the rest of her year, because people are now familiar with, you know, Rotary. Laura's the new president. This is what they're doing. In the past, we have waited until the end of February after our big fundraiser, the Crab Fest, to figure out exactly what funds we had to spend for the rest of the year on a big project. And that doesn't always work because you're crowded at the end of the year to get things done elsewhere. So by planning ahead and engaging, you know, strategically in having the president-elect engage in something for his or her year, it really has helped, I think, that we will have a more vibrant year, especially during COVID, because we did a big kickoff and people in the community are interested, and Laura can build on that so that when we come back and have, say, an online auction or some other option to our regular fundraising, people will go, oh, Rotary, they're the ones who packed 40,000 servings of rice and beans for the food depot. So anyway, somehow I think that having big kind of kickoff projects or visibility in the you know, first half or first quarter of the year is going to make a difference for our club.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left before we have closing comments. Any other, and again, that worksheet that I send out, you can use something similar. The main thing is to just capture what's going well and what can we improve. And don't do it individually. Do it with your club or with your club board. It should be a group activity. You may have your own ideas, which is great, but there are a lot of people in your club that are not on this call. And we want everyone in the club to be engaged and have your assistant governor and other resources available to help you. So other thoughts?
Thank you, Bruce and Jeff, for leading this today.
Oh, thank you. I'm looking for hands, not seeing hands. Okay, so before we close, I'm going to turn it over to Sunny. First, let's thank Bruce with our Zoom. Thank you for doing such a great job leading us through. As was pointed out in the chat, all of that stuff in bold are hyperlinks to documents, and some of them may not be available until Rotary.org is up and running again. It was down this morning. So yes, if you have the electronic version, you can just click on those, and all those documents that we shared, you can get, you can have access to those. We'll also send out in a few hours the recorded link, and I'm also going to send out the survey so you can let us know how this Be a Vibrant Club workshop went for you. What went well and what can we do to improve? We're trying to improve as well. So your feedback is really important. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sunny for some closing comments.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, closing comments begin by first observing that at least here in Silver City, it's an absolutely gorgeous day. And I imagine it is where you are too. So that makes your being here even more of a gift than it would be in any event. I thank you for the time you've devoted to being with us and also for all you're doing as Rotarians. I especially thank Jeff and Bruce for putting this together and guiding us through it. And I want you to know that in my experience, two things. One is being with Rotarians is always a joy because Rotarians are up to so many amazing things. And so it's a gift to be together with you. And I've also noticed that no matter how great we are, there's always room to make things even better. So your being here is a testament that you agree with me on that we can keep on finding new ways to be vibrant. And vibrance, in one of our previous discussions, we talked about being vibrant as being fun, engaging, and growing, which sounds like a good definition to me. And that's really my vision for this district, that we keep being all three of those things. So I know that sometimes we can't do these events without traveling, and that's always a big deal, isn't it? To the transportation and the hotel and the meals and the time away from family. So it's a way, a blessing to have Zoom and be able to do this in one 3-hour block without all that other stuff. We still look forward to being together with one another, and fingers crossed that it happens soon. I can't wait to come and visit you. In the meantime, though, I would say it's so rare that we take time to stop and think about what being a vibrant club really means. And it's rare to give ourselves the gift of thinking about that and then kicking it around with fellow Rotarians. So this is a gift to us that we just gave ourselves. I want to say too, I haven't said anything about this. Thank you especially to past district governors, Dick Jones and Dan Garrison, for joining us today. Did I miss anybody? I hope I didn't miss anybody. and to
Oh yeah, John Adams. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, he was past president.
Not yet, but soon, right, John? Thank you, Bob Roush and John Drusden, for joining us today. Thank you, each and every one of you. You are heroes in my book, and I salute you all. That's it for me.
Thank you. And Bob and John, as our incoming governor and incoming governor, any words of wisdom from you? Bob, let's start with you.
No words of wisdom. Sunny said it all. I think I really can't expand on everything she said. I think she said it very well. I do want to say I appreciate meeting all of the people here in the Zoom session, Zoomily, and I look forward to seeing you in person in the flesh sometime over the next couple of years. It was very nice meeting you all.
Thank you. John?
Just echo what Sonny and Bob said, and I'm not really their flunky. We work together as a great team, I think, and it's great to see so many people that are part of that team as well. And as Bob and Sonny both said, we really look forward to getting together with you and to seeing Rotary just improved.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so there's more to come. In the meantime, thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your weekend. And we will go ahead and adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You too. Bye for now.